Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. How many people here have heard the saying, old as dirt? Not your father. Well, my buddy Dave, he's older than dirt. And why do I say that? Because he was there when dirt was made. In the Bible, book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1 reads, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." What you might not realize is that Pope Francis has recently found the very original Bible and the blueprints for God's creation. And they're not quite what you think, because the plan for God's plan for the universe was to simply create the world, the heavens and the earth, in one day. And the original Bible simply read, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," and then he created Dave. Now, who is Dave? Well, Dave is God's alpha version of man, his prototype. And with prototypes, there are bugs, things that need to be re-engineered. And with Dave, there were some problems. Boy, were there problems. Too many to go in here for just a 5 to 7 minute speech, but if you've ever read the beginning of the Bible, you'll see most of the problems Dave caused. So in the beginning, it was dark. God didn't need light, he could see in the dark. And then there was Dave. Dave complained about the dark. Dave complained a lot. So God said, "Okay, let there be light." And Dave stopped complaining about the dark, and God saw how good that was. In the beginning, waters covered all the earth. We all know God can walk on water. But Dave complained about being wet. Dave complained a lot. So God said, "Okay, let's gather all the waters into one place and let dry ground appear." Dave called the dry ground dirt, and he called the waters seas. Dave stopped complaining about being wet, and God saw how good that was. But now it was light all the time. That prevented Dave from getting sleep. And Dave complained about not having enough rest. And Dave complained a lot. So God said, "Okay, let's separate the lightness from the darkness. And we'll call the light day and the dark night." Dave was able to get sleep, and he stopped complaining about being tired. And God saw how good that was. In the beginning, there was no food, right? There was nothing on earth. Well, God didn't need to eat, but Dave complained about being hungry. Dave complained a lot. So God said, "Let vegetation spring forth from the land, and let seed-growing plants sprout, and let trees with fruit, with seeds in them, take place." So Dave ate from the vegetation and the fruits, and he stopped complaining about being hungry. And God saw how good that was. Dave, in the beginning, there was just God and Dave. And Dave was lonely. Dave complained. Dave complained a lot. So God said, "Okay, let there be livestock and creatures that crawl along the ground and wild animals." Dave had entertainment, and he stopped complaining about being alone, and God saw how good that was. Then Dave started to name all of the animals that God created. God didn't need to name the animals. He knew what they were. I mean, who in their right mind would call something an aardvark, a platypus, a rhinoceros, or a hippopotamus? Dave. As with most projects, timelines sort of expand. So God's original plan to create the heavens and the earth in one day was now up to 5. And talk about scope creep. Well, now, even though Dave had all the animals, none of them would talk to him. So God created Eve. But now, instead of working just one day, God had worked 6 long days, and he needed that 7th day to rest. But why did he create Eve? Well, he created Eve so Dave would have someone to complain to other than God. And God saw how really good that was. Madam Toastmaster.